Hello everyone, and welcome back to a video that has been long overdue, the final part of the Frog and Molly McGee. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I hope you like and subscribe it. But anyways, let's get on with this. In the new normal, Libby, Olivia, and Union would make their way to what was originally Marcy's house, but is now Libby's in this AU. Union would be a bit freaked out, seeing virtually everything and anything as a threat and trying to attack it, while Libby and Olivia try to stop her from causing property damage. Olivia, though a bit nervous, stays calm and collected. Libby manages to convince her parents not to tell the authorities about her lizard friends, and unlike Anne and the Planters, Libby, Olivia, and Union would be just fine in quarantine. Libby, because she's just an introvert, and uh, and Olivia and Union would want to kind of relax after what happened in True Colors. Then Andreas sends Cloakbot to Earth, not to kill Libby, but to bring her back to Amphibia. She is the smartest of the girls, so she's the only one who would make an ideal host for the core. But Cloakbot, when Cloakbot eventually finds them, Yunnan slices and dices Cloakbot, and it is already down on episode 1. In Hop Till You Drop, Yunnan would be a human and act hostile towards every new thing she sees, and Olivia would be in risk of being scammed like Hop Pop. However, Libby wouldn't take them to the mall, as that seems like a place she would try to avoid. Instead, she would ease the two slowly in the world, like Anne's parents suggested to Anne in the original timeline. In Turning Point, when Libby, Olivia, and Union go through the portal, it creates a bright light, distracting Andrea, Molly, and the Planters from fighting the core. Unfortunately, this distraction is also their downfall, as while everyone was looking the other way, concerned as to what happened to Libby, the core impales Andrea through the back. This leaves Molly devastated. In just a few seconds, both of her friends had been impaled and sent to who knows where. The core doesn't stop there, though. It keeps fighting and fighting, and the only way Molly and the Planters escape is through the window, taking Andrea's limp body with them, and being caught on Joe Sparrow. After going back to Wartwood, Molly stays alone most of the time, trying to cope with what had just happened. Eventually, Sprig is able to get her out of this mood, saying that she can't just sit in her basement all day while the world is ending. If she wanted a chance to get to see Libby and Andrea again, she was gonna have to fight for it. Just in time, too, as Grime finally returned to take his revenge. They start fighting, but in the middle of it, a Frobot shows up and starts attacking all of them. It only goes down when Grime and the Planters work together. Grime is confused on what's going on before Molly explains it. Sorry. And Grime decides that there's no way that he can survive in this new world that Molly speaks of on his own, and must team up with his enemies in order to survive. They take down the rest of the robot army from later in that episode, and from that, the resistance is formed. In Thai Feud, Olivia and Union would be getting the hang of life on Earth by now, and wouldn't be misbehaving like Sprig was in the beginning of the episode. They were a part of royalty, after all, and it's very likely that they'd just be chill with sleeping on the couch all day. or something like that. And as much as I'd like to say, so this episode never happens, we're forgetting one other crucial detail. Tygo doesn't exist. And even if it did, it wouldn't be a part of this timeline. Maybe if we're lucky, it would be like a restaurant in the background, but it would have no connection to the story. Um, Instead, I looked back to what job Libby's parents have in The Ghost and Molly McGee, and I find this oddly perfect for the story. They worked at a library, which doesn't seem like much at first glance, but remember, this is where Libby learned about the Calamity Box from the book Molly gave her. That, paired with the fact that the library was the last place she hung out with her friends before being zapped to Amphibia, she starts worrying about Amphibia and her friends. Luckily, Olivia and Yunnan are there to comfort her. In Adventures in Cat Sitting, Libby obviously wouldn't have Domino as a pet. What she would have is a few pet turtles, which Olivia and Yunnan take to the vet. And since turtles are as slow as heck, even if they tried anything, it would be worthless against the great General Yunnan. In Fight in the Museum, Libby wouldn't burn herself out trying to research how to get back to Amphibia because of Libby's habit of acting medieval when she's tired. She'll also end up trusting Dr. Jan because she's not sleep deprived like Anne was. In Temple Frogs, Libby's family wouldn't be a part of Thai culture, so Libby, Olivia, and Yunnan would just go to the museum to see the secret message that on the vase that Dr. Jan found. Fixing Frobo would never happen since Frobo is still in Amphibia, and Ansterminator would also never happen since Cloakbot was already dead. Libby would just explain the full extent of her situation in Amphibia to her parents. Uh, since everyone wasn't battling Cloakbot across LA, Olivia and Yunnan are never caught on camera, so Mr. X would never happen. Sprig's birthday would also never happen, since Sprig is still on Amphibia, and I doubt it would also be either Olivia or Yunnan's birthday, or maybe even Libby's, or one of her relatives. 2 whole episodes of this series just wiped out of existence. As you can imagine, the day I wrote these 2 episodes was a great day, as it meant less effort from me. In Spider Sprig, Yunnan would start feeling nostalgic for the days she was a general, and would go out into the world in a costume and be a superhero like Sprig was. But since Cloakbot was already broken beyond repair, Robert Otto has nothing to use against Yunnan, so she would continue doing all of this until it eventually catches the eye of Mr. X, which I'm surprised it didn't in the original timeline. Mr. X would be a lot harder to defeat with so much more advanced technology, but Yunnan's combat skills make her actually stand a chance against Mr. X. Mr. X is eventually defeated, and then after that, Yunnan fixes up any property damage caused, and then retires from being a superhero because she got grounded by Libby's parents. Olivia and Yunnan would never happen since they are on Earth and Andrea is in Wartwood. In Hollywood Hop Pop, neither Olivia or Yunnan would have the passion for acting Hop Pop had, and would just enjoy Hollywood from afar. If you give a frog a cookie would stay the same, and in Froggy Little Christmas, Libby would try to teach Olivia and Yunnan about Hanukkah, since it's what she celebrates in The Ghost and Molly McGee. Since it's unlikely Libby's parents would get a float while working at the library of all places, Libby wouldn't be going around setting up one for them. Unfortunately, in this episode, Andreas finally decides to do something. So he sends another robot to Earth, but this time it would be slightly different from the one in the original timeline. If Andreas wanted to get and bring Libby back to Amphibia, then he couldn't take control of the Santa Claus inflatable, as everyone would notice that. Sure, everyone noticed that in the original timeline, but if he's taking Libby back to Amphibia, then everyone would see the portal, and uh, and Andreas's goal is to have the element of surprise when invading Earth. Instead, it would be something similar to Cloakbot, as it would be unnoticeable compared to the giant blimps. The robot still ends up being destroyed, though. Return to Amphibia would go the same until the end. Since Libby doesn't have the physical strength and it, she would need the assistance of everyone who went to the FBI base to get past the guards. Though that would consist of just her parents, Dr. Jan, Molly, Joe, and Terry in this timeline. Then, when they were about to go through the portal, but end up getting stopped by the FBI, it would seem like they were doomed since Libby doesn't have any calamity powers. But for the purposes of plot, let's just say Molly was conveniently on the other side of the portal, and she was able to power the portal. The reason for this is because she was on some sort of mission when the portal opened earlier that day, and when it closed, she waited for it to open again. Molly takes down the FBI agents, and Olivia, Union, and Libby are sent back to Amphibia. In Commander Anne, or in this case, oh, what the heck, you get it at this point. Molly would lead Libby to the Resistance headquarters and explain what was happening. Molly in this situation would not be the commander, considering how in The Ghost and Molly McGee she could barely keep Brighton together as mayor. So if Molly isn't a good option as commander, the best option would be Grime, the person who was more of an antagonist in this AU more than in the original timeline, ended up with the commander status. Also, notice how the trend of Sasha not being the commander in these videos continues. Sure, she's not here in the first place, but it's like the one tradition that's constant across all of these Amphibia what-ifs. After his whole revenge thing wore off, he realized he would have to be the one in charge if Amphibia could have a chance to survive. And it's not like he was head of Tower for no reason. He is strong and knows a lot about Amphibia fighting skills and techniques. And with the assistance of people like Molly and the Planters, he has learned to be more compassionate. And since neither Molly or Libby have beef with each other, the whole factory part goes according to plan, no extra drama needed. Sprivey ends up going the same, just with Grime as the commander, and in Sasha's Angels, or in this case, Andrea's Angels, even though she's not even in this episode, because she is critically injured, when Mrs. Croker's team get captured, both Molly and Grime would be idiots and go save them, only to be captured themselves, but nothing else changes much. Town Road would stay relatively the same, and so would the Mother of Olms. In Grime's pupil, Sprig and Grime would have a much better relationship than they did in the beginning of the episode, as it wasn't Sprig specifically who he lost a fight to, but rather the combined strength of the whole team. On top of that, Sprig and Grime had spent the entire time Libby, Olivia, and Yunan were on Earth bonding, unlike in the original timeline, where after True Colors, they were separated until the portal opens back up. This doesn't change Beatrix's opinion on frogs, though, so this episode stays about the same. The root of all evil also stays the same, and in The Core and the King, the Core wouldn't need a reboot since they don't have a vessel. The flashback part would stay the same, though. Nudes and Tights would also stay the same. And so would Fight or Flight, but Domino 2 would just be Domino number 1, since she is the first cat in the series to be named Domino. I'm actually kind of surprised how much has stayed the same these past few episodes, so let's change things up a bit so this isn't boring. Let's say Andrea finally wakes up. Only took her 15 episodes. She is happy to see everyone, but can't fight in her state. The three armies stay relatively the same, and in the beginning of the end, since Olivia and Yunnan were never captured, they aren't there to guard the box. And since the Corps never got a vessel, they aren't able to recognize the attack strategy. This is another theme consistent around all of my Amphibia what-ifs. If the Corps does not have a vessel, it's basically done for before it even reaches Earth. This, of course, causes the Corps to come out of hiding and fight everyone once and for all, and try to kill them. But then Molly's calamity powers activate, and she's able to take down the Corps. Then she goes down to finish Andreas before she passes out from exhaustion. This is where she, in her unconscious state, would meet the creator of the Calamity Stones, but instead she ends up somewhere else. Somewhere you feel like you recognize. And yes, you heard that correctly. You. Not Molly. Not the people who are watching this series through this alternate timeline. You. It's a white void filled with bubbles, showing you what happened in previous what-ifs and AUs. Molly sees things like a one-eyed triangle exploding entire planets, her best froggy friends hanging out with someone named Anne, and a solar eclipse in a world with a giant skeleton. Just then, a mysterious gray figure, hold up. Where was I in the script? God dang it. Sorry. Just then, a mysterious gray figure appears before Molly. It looks slightly different from when you last saw it. Before, it was just a gray silhouette of a humanoid figure, but now you can see outlines of its clothes, and you can even make out a tie around his neck. Like what you see? It asked Molly. Molly is confused and starts asking if she died and if this was the afterlife. No, the figure replied. A desk and two chairs seemingly appear out of nowhere. The figure sits on the one opposite to the side of Molly and asks her to sit down and chat. Molly does so, and when she sits down, she asks what this place is. The world between worlds, replies the figure. Molly asks who the figure is. There was a brief silence as the figure tried to think of an answer. I am but a humble observer, said the figure. I watch scenarios that my boss creates, never interacting with said scenarios. Well, except one time involving a time loop, but that's a story for another time. And then I relay the outcome and back to my boss. That is why you are here, Molly. You are here because I wish to offer you a job here. Molly was shocked. You can come up with scenarios we could not, and observe alongside me. It does get a bit lonely here, said the figure. Molly is thankful for this opportunity, but like Anne before her, declines. As expected, said the figure. You are young, and not ready for such a task. No matter, I will just ask you when you are ready. You may leave now." Molly looks behind her and sees her universe, and watches as her friends beg her to wake up. Molly gets up and walks towards it. Uh, sh Before she walks in, she gets interrupted. The figure asks a favor from her. "Tell Libby the truth," said the figure. "She deserves to know by now." Molly nods and walks back in. She wakes up from her exhaustion and embraces her friends in one big hug. After that, they return to Wartwood so they can get Andrea to an actual hospital. Molly tells Libby the truth about how she and Andrea willingly got the three trapped in Amphibia on purpose, and they end up making up. Then, 90-something years later, Molly finally dies of old age, and is brought back to have yet another interview. She appears in her child form, and is happy to not have fragile bones anymore. Then she sees the figure once again. She says how it's been a long time since they last met, and the figure replies that it was for her, but he sped up time in her universe. Decades went by in mere seconds for him. "Are you ready to take the job now?" the figure asked. Molly said yes. Great.